For the first time since the Clean Air Act, the entire state of Louisiana meets the 1 hour and the 1997 8-hour ozone standards. This is a major accomplishment, and as I just spoke about all these people, there's a lot of other people who were also involved in achieving this monumental milestone. Having air quality of this caliber is beneficial for the citizens of the state as we strive for clean air to breathe. In November of this past year, EPA, thank you very much, approved DEQ's request for redesignation of the five-parish non-attainment area around Baton Rouge to attainment of the 1997 ozone standard. The achievement was the result of many, many years of effort by the state, citizens, industries, and businesses who worked tirelessly to decrease the ground level ozone in Baton Rouge and the surrounding parishes. While this is a great accomplishment and shows the continued improvement of air quality for the citizens of the state, we still have a lot of work to do. In September of 2011, EPA lowered the 8-hour ozone standard to 75 parts per billion. And based on their initial findings, the Baton Rouge area will be classified as marginal non-attainment. DEQ, along with all the people, industry, businesses, citizens who have worked so hard to reach the current milestone that we celebrate today, will continue to work to meet this new stricter standard. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Mike McDaniel. Thank you for coming today. Former secretary, very instrumental. I didn't thank you originally because I'm thanking you now for all your hard work. And he is a member of the Baton Rouge Clean Air Coalition, and he's going to have a few words. Thank you so much.
10 reasons for how we got to today's celebration. Number one is the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990. These amendments built on Clean Air Acts of 70 and 77, and a lot of work actually previous to that. It substantially increased the authority and responsibility of the federal government for air quality regulations. And there was a new regulatory programs and expansion of existing programs that were authorized for, many of you know these, acid deposition, stationary source permits, mobile sources and fuels, air toxics, attainment and maintenance of NACs. This was really expanded compared to the 77 amendments. Enforcement authority, which got to be very important, and I think had a large role in how we got here today. Stratospheric ozone protection and expanded research. Now the two that I'll visit and that are important to what we're doing today are the attainment and maintenance of NACs, those provisions, and the enforcement authority. Those of you that have followed environmental regulations over the years recall that there was some problems. Air quality was not getting better even with the two major acts that had been passed. General public mood was that there just wasn't enough being done, and then Congress took it on itself to solve the problem and wrote the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990. These are very prescriptive amendments, a little overly in some areas, made it a little tough, but on the other hand, they set out a very tightly described process to improve the nation's air quality, particularly related to ambient air quality standards. The enforcement authority is another important one because at this point in time in these amendments, all of a sudden, EPA and the federal government had a lot of leverage and a strong enforcement authority, including things such as withholding highway funds, large penalties. They had some real teeth all of a sudden to make the states move forward. Number two, in this area there was an obvious air quality problem. There was no question, no argument about whether or not we needed to do something. Those of you that were here at the time recall back in the 80s, we had ozone episodes that sometimes went for days. We had 10 to 20 days a year. The episodes would last almost all day. 8 to 10 hours in some cases. And then we had values that would rise up above the standard, not only above the standard, but into the unhealthful, and on occasion bumping into the very unhealthful range. The area saw some really serious smog, and people knew we had a problem that we had to work on. And that, of course, helped with this overall effort. Number 3, there was a good industry buy-in. That was extremely important. It was not going to be a fight. The industry recognized they were going to have to do some things, and they were actually up on in the front of the line in working with us to get started on the attainment. There was a, and I remember it well, I don't remember who exactly said it, but it really struck me. Meeting with the environmental managers, this is, see if I can recall some of these, Larry Edcock, Bill Rainey, Jared Digg, and Gordon Jolly helped from some of the plants, but the plant managers making the comment that we know we're going to have some costly controls to put in place. So let's make sure we make good decisions and base them on the very best science. And that was probably the main reason that they got on board early on and provided some very welcome leadership. Number 4, we got off to a good start. With all of the things going for us, we, particularly industry coming to the table, we formed a joint DEQ industry task force, which was an extraordinary group of people, a lot of talent from both industry and state government, from DEQ. I guess some of the best talent you could have applied to such things as determining what kind of monitoring program we needed, where the monitor should be placed. There was a lot of thought that went into that, and some very good minds that helped formulate that program. We had a lot of industry-provided resources, so we got a real quick boost. And I don't know how many of you aware of this, but the industry ponied up several $1 million early on, purchasing and helping us outfit all the monitoring sites, some computers. They had their people, some of their best people, math and science people, involved in the technical task force and helping us as we work toward solutions. And then DEQ geared up and staffed up, and I was proud of the way that was done. We knew we had a lot to do, and it was daunting, just all the requirements that were going to have to be met. But fortunately, we were able to gear up and staff up with some good people. Number 5, we installed a top-notch monitoring program for ozone precursors, and meteorology. I don't know if it's changed, but I was told early on we have one of the best monitoring programs in the country. We had the most per capita monitors. That may have changed by now, but at one time we had the most monitors per capita of any metro area in the country. And it's been a wonderful asset in helping us analyze ozone episodes and wind direction and how these ozone clouds move around and helping us toward our strategies. Number 6, we evolved as we learned. This was an interesting process. For those of you that have been through it, you'll recognize it. We started out with a focus on VOC controls, which is what the 90 Clean Air Act amendments were based on. Kind of anachronistic because they were based on 1980s technology and knowledge, and it turns out it wasn't exactly accurate, but it was a good place to start. So we began a program of VOC controls. Can anybody make a guess at what our first and largest VOC control measure was? Gus von Bedungen and marine loading. The amount of VOCs that were removed from the air around here by that effort, which was a leading effort, pioneering effort that Gus was involved with, and basically was helpful to other places around the country. We had VOC control strategy we developed. We did some modeling. It told us what we needed to do. Biogenics were kind of a new area for us, and we brought in experts with that. And all of these controls, which the modeling said would work, brought us very close to attainment, actually. In, I think it was, somebody help me here, 99, we came within 1 part per billion of achieving attainment. Is that right, 99? That was the year we were scheduled to reach attainment, which always kind of bothered me to get that close, and then you get bumped up to severe later. But, so that took us to there. Then we saw that we still weren't making the progress we needed to get there. Next year it went up a little bit. And the next round of strategy and modeling showed that, okay, you've reduced VOCs, now you've got to go back and you've got to bring your NOx concentrations down. So we promulgated extensive NOx rules, some very expensive controls for industry. Again, we got close, but no attainment. Further analysis led us to look at what we call highly reactive VOCs and spiking ozone levels. And that was kind of like an aha moment. When we began to look at that, we really found some relationship between concentrations because of our monitoring program. We were getting concentrations of these highly reactive VOCs and shortly thereafter very high ozone spikes. And that was hurting us on the 1 hour standard because that tended to be a spiking situation. Number 7 were or what I think is important, were the 2004 administrative orders on consent that we issued. It's in 04. I think we announced it here with Governor Blanco. And it's important to stress that those administrative orders were on consent. It never would have happened if we'd have just issued orders like police and said, you've got to obey these orders, go do this. We'd have ended up in fights, litigation, everything else. Everybody came to the table, at least 15 companies that we felt like we needed to work with. That order requested fence line monitoring. We were interested in trying to determine where these leaks and releases were coming from that were giving us these spiking ozone levels. And 15 companies, we worked with each of them individually. We arrived at consents on an administrative order, put in place an outstanding fence line monitoring program, a meteorological monitoring program, and ultimately not only helped us for the ozone effort, I think it helped a lot of the plants determine where they had some problems with leaks and releases and rail loading and some other things. But overall, it resulted in decline in releases of about 60%. So I have to say that was a pretty effective measure at the time. It took about 2 years, and I have to be really pleased. That, again, was a real partnership with industry. And I think that was largely responsible for us attaining the 1 hour and beginning to bring our 8-hour numbers down. Number 8, you can't take all the credit for what happened from here. The federal emission control programs also played an important part. Things like mobile emissions, small engine, consumer products, even things like CARE, even though it's now gone to CASPER and back to CARE, but other programs that the EPA and the federal government were putting in place to reduce long-range transport type emissions. And certainly the mobile sources and fuels was a big one because that brought down a lot of NOx and VOC that's hot and mixing on the roadway, which is very effective in ozone formation. And I think that we've seen a lot of positive impact from that nationwide. Number 9, looking outside the box. We were never afraid to embrace new technology. We went up with the Hawk and a helicopter, and we looked at plants. We looked at barges that we hadn't looked at before. Mobile air monitoring lab, old mammal. Is it still around? Okay. Researching other sources, such as the fence line monitoring, which was very, like I said, very effective. the barges. We also, the experts told us that there's some missing NOx in this model somewhere, and we know it's there. We need to figure it out, because otherwise we're going to be going after some false strategies. And we went down and studied. This was done under a BEP. Went down and studied Port Fourchon and found the missing NOx, and it should help our model perform much better. And number 10, well, one other I need to mention because and Gene Kelly's been very essential in this, and that's voluntary and episodic control efforts such as the Ozone Action Days and public outreach and things. Informing the public is the importance of actions they take in bringing us better air quality. Number 10, and most important, and want to leave you with, that this was a community effort. It was, at times to me, it seems almost providential that a lot of good people showed up at the right time in the right places to help with the attainment effort. There was a lot of good people working on this project. We had stakeholder reps from all sectors of the community working together collaboratively. And it's amazing what can get done when you get people, even with competing interests, to sit down with an interest in working together and solving a problem. We had the Baton Rouge Clean Air Coalition, which I work with still. We have stakeholders from state and local government. DEQ's a member of it, DNR, and I have to say with Pee-wee and others that early on we had a really good participation with the parish president. They understood this affected them and their industry and people as well. Industry, economic development, Chamber's been a big member for us. LSU, CRPC, environmental organizations, engineering, environmental consultants, law firms. It is very impressive to sit at the table, as I did yesterday at a meeting, and watch the discussions and the strategy development and the ideas surface from all of these sources with different backgrounds. And it's been, the forum provided by the Clean Air Coalition, I think has been great. All of these efforts have led us to attainment of the 1 hour and 8 hour ozone standards, as well as, and it's important, you need to keep in mind, we've eliminated exceedances of air toxics standards, which were bugging us for a number of years. So cleaning up the highly reactive VOCs took things like butadiene and others out of the air as well. And to my knowledge, I don't think we've had an exceedance of an ambient air quality standard in years now. And for those that don't know, Louisiana is only one of 2 or 3 states in the nation that has ambient air quality standards for air toxics. And it's a very good program. I'm very proud to stand here today as our community celebrates attainment of the ozone standard. It's been a long and bumpy road, but I feel very fortunate to have been along for the ride. Thank you.
The ozone standard was set with the 1977 Act. We did our first designations, and so that was in 1979. And how many wonderful people have worked from 1979 to the current time to work towards attainment of the ozone standard, improved air quality. The last time EPA was here celebrating with you a major air quality milestone for ozone was in January 2009. And at that ceremony, it was recognizing the effort of monitoring attainment, not at that point the redesignation taking place. And Larry Starfield, our Deputy Regional Administrator, attended that ceremony and brought congratulations that in 2009, all the monitors were showing attainment for both the 1 hour standard and the 85 part per billion 8 hour ozone standard. And today, the festivities celebrate a first time ever event for actual redesignated attainment, the area's attainment of the ozone standard. And just to emphasize, Baton Rouge, as well as the rest of the state of Louisiana, is officially in attainment for all the national ambient air quality standards. And what an accomplishment of all of the stakeholders, LD, EQ, and everybody involved in the process. You know, to get to the point of redesignation to the ozone standard, not only did the data have to show attainment, but all the requirements of the Louisiana State Implementation Plan for ozone had to be approvable and implemented, and had to be judged by EPA just like we would judge any other state, that all of those needed to be acceptable. And it has taken the collaborative efforts, and Mike explained it so well, of local industry, local government, the Baton Rouge Clean Air Coalition, environmental groups, citizens, elected officials, mayors, parish presidents, community leaders to reach this goal. And we recognize as EPA the important part that each of you played in this success. There's just a lot of innovations that have taken place, and I just want to echo what Mike said. Innovations that assisted in achieving the goal, use of the infrared or Hawk camera. There were special barge studies to try to determine the emissions from barges and to take steps to reduce those. Mike had talked about highly reactive VOC studies, fence line monitors, extensive ozone photochemical modeling, and so all of these are examples of innovations that I know that we can all be proud of. LDEQ and EPA worked closely towards the redesignation by proposing and adopting the required regulations at both the state level. The state puts in place the regulations and the plans, and then it has to be sent to the federal government for approval. And so those state and federal plans had to be put in place in order for the redesignation to take place. And now with the progress made in Baton Rouge for the ozone program, the Baton Rouge area as well as the rest of the state of Louisiana is in attainment for the current ozone standards, as well as the other 5 criteria pollutants that are regulated for attainment. And so the state of Louisiana has made great strides. Region 6 covers 5-state area. And very good progress has been made across all the areas of Region 6. We do have a couple of urban areas in Texas that are still non-attainment and still making strides towards attainment of the air quality standards. But this is all about improving air quality so that public health is improved, improving air quality such that the children in the summertime don't have to stay inside, workers that are outside working over extended periods of time, that the air they're breathing is less polluted and protective of public health.
It's a health factor. It affects people's health. Everyone wants clean air to breathe, and that's just a step that we've taken.